Welcome everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in to Tell Me Like You Mean It, Australian Poetry's digital reading with Amelia Dale, Holly Charles and Oscar Schwartz. My name is Frankie Hanman Siegersma. I'm a poet and radio producer, and Melody, Paloma and I are your co-hosts for this evening. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging I'm tuning in from a Wurundjeri country in Melbourne from the Kulin Nations. And Melody Paloma is tuning in from Brogo, which is the land of the Djiranyarj people of the Yuin Nation. We pay our respects to elders and community members, past, present and future from this country and from the countries from which each and every one of our listeners are tuning in from. And also within this acknowledgement of country, we think about action and solidarity with First Nations people across this land, other nations, and the ways in which First Nations people have always used poetry and storytelling in their political resistances. So this evening, we'll be hearing poetry readings from Amelia Dale, Holly Charles, and Oscar Schwartz. And it's the third reading in our Tell Me Like You Mean It reading series, which has previously featured Alison Whitaker, Emily Stewart, Evelyn Araluen, Eleanor Gomez, Sarah Umar, Shan Vait. And we'd like to thank these folks and others who've all appeared in our e-Chapbook with Cordite Poetry Review: Kira Lindsay Bird, Jessica May Cham, Holly Eismonger, Muggan Muggan, Marjan Mosama Parasat, Leah Muddle, Claire Nasher, Ella O'Keefe, Anupama Pilbrow, Ryan Pren and Stacey Teague. And if you haven't yet read the Tell Me Like You Mean It chapbook, head over to Australian Poetry Review and catch up on the poems. So Australian Poetry acknowledges the support of Cordite Poetry Review as well, and the generosity of our 2017 Festival Publication Funders, Copyright Agency Cultural Fund, Australia Council for the Arts and Creative Victoria. I'm now going to hand you over to my co-host, Melody Paloma, who is a poet and a critic currently on the far south coast of New South Wales. Among other publications, her work has appeared in Cordite, Rabbit, Plumwood Mountain, Un Magazine, and the 2016 Hunter Anthology of Contemporary Australian Feminist Poetry. Melody was the recipient of the 2014 Overland Judith Wright Poetry Prize for New and Emerging Poets. Her debut collection, In Some Ways Dingo, was released earlier this year as part of the Rabbit Poets series. Thanks, Melody.
Thanks, Frankie, and hello to everyone who is tuning in, streaming live, or who may be watching this back later. I'm really excited to be part of this event, to have 3 different readers and Frankie, all of whom are broadcasting from different places across the world. So I'm here in Brogo. It's Brogo behind me. Just behind me is Mumbula Mountain. And I'm going to introduce our first reader for the evening, if you're in Melbourne, Amelia Dale, who is broadcasting from Shanghai. Amelia Dale is an Australian writer, critic and researcher based in Shanghai. Her book Constitution came out this year with Ink and Publish. Other books or ebook objects include Tractor Saw, published by Troll Thread, Grumpy Cat 2 reads Sanditon Chapter 2, Gauss PDF, and Metadata, which was published by Stale Objects Press. She co-edits the avant-garde press Stale Objects Press and is the experimental literature editor for Cordite. She is a lecturer at SUIBE in Shanghai and researches 18th century literatures and cultures. Please welcome Amelia.
Welcome. By listening to this reading, you're agreeing to these terms. Our poetry is very varied, so sometimes additional terms or product requirements, including age requirements, may apply. Additional terms will be available with the relevant poems or services, and those additional terms become part of your agreement with us if you listen to, stream, or download or upload these poems. This statement of rights and responsibilities, statement, terms, or SRR, derives from our principles and is our terms of service that governs our relationship with our audience and others who interact with us, as well as our poetry brands and services, which we call our poetry or services. By using or accessing our services, you agree to this statement as updated from time to time in accordance with section 13 below. Because we provide a wide range of poetry, when we ask you to review and accept supplemental terms that apply to your interaction with a specific poet, poem, or service, to the extent that those supplemental terms conflict with this SRR, the supplemental terms associated with a poem, poet, product, or service govern with respect to your use of such a poem, product, or service to the extent of this conflict. These terms of service govern your access to and use of other services, including our various words, texts, breaths, physical gestures, and other covered services that link to these terms, collectively the services. Text, links, graphics, photos, videos, or other materials or arrangements of materials read, shown, or otherwise appearing in our poetry service, collectively referred to as content. By listening to this performance, you agree to be bound by these terms. We are updating our terms of use. Our updated terms of use will be effective on January 19, 2013. By listening to this reading, you are agreeing to be bound by the following terms and conditions. Terms of use. By listening or viewing our reading and any sounds or images provided to you on, from, or through this reading, collectively the service, you signify your agreement to 1. These terms and conditions, the terms of service, 2. The privacy policy incorporated herein by reference, and 3. Our community guidelines, also incorporated herein by reference. If you do not agree to any of these terms, the privacy policy or the community guidelines reading. Although we may attempt to notify you when major changes are made in these terms of service, you should periodically review the most up-to-date version. We may, in our discretion, revise these terms of services and policies at any time, and you agree to be bound by such modifications or revisions. Nothing in these terms of service shall be deemed to confer any third-party rights or benefits. These terms of service apply to all users of the service, including audience members or users who are also contributors of content on the service. Content includes the text, poetry, graphics, photos, sounds, music, videos, audio-visual combinations, interactive features, and other materials you may listen to, access through, or contribute to the service. The service includes all aspects, including, but not limited to, all poetry read in this reading. The Brandis Diaries, 16th of September 2013 to 22nd of September 2013. This information is redacted. These poems may contain references to or have associations with poetry or other content that is not owned or controlled by us. We have no control over and assume no responsibility for the content, privacy policies, or practices of any other poets, writers, or language users. In addition, we will not and cannot edit the content of any third-party poet. By using the service, you expressly relieve us from any and all liability arising from your engagement with any third-party poet. Accordingly, we encourage you to be aware that when you leave the service and read these terms and conditions and privacy policy of each other poetry reading that you listen to, these terms cover the use of our poetry performances, writing, and services listed here. The services. Many of these products previously had separate terms that were called different names, such as perhaps Oscar Schwartz terms of use or Holly Child's terms of use, and these terms replace those separate terms. You accept these terms by watching, viewing, streaming, or listening to this reading or recording of this reading after being notified of a change to these terms. Your privacy is important to us. Please read our privacy statement, as it describes the type of data we collect from you and your devices. Data, and how we use your data. The privacy statement also describes how we use your content, which is your communications with others, postings or feedback about this digital reading, those documents, audio, digital work, and videos that you make about this reading, your content. By listening to this reading or agreeing to these terms, you consent to our collection, use, and disclosure of your content and data as described in the privacy statement. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Amelia, so much. So brilliant to hear that as performance. If you haven't looked at Amelia's piece in the chapbook, please do so, and you can see exactly what I mean. So we'll move on to our second reader for the evening, Holly Childs, who is broadcasting from Amsterdam. When Holly joined this video chat, it was completely dark in the room she was in as the sun was just coming up. So thank you, Holly, for joining us so early. Holly Childs is an Australian writer and artist, author of Danklands, published by Arcadia Missa, London, and No Limit, published by Hologram, Melbourne. She was a recent researcher in the New Normal program at the Strelka Institute in Moscow. Thank you, Holly. And she's just left. Okay, we might just, Oscar, are you happy to go now? Might just do a quick reshuffle because I'm not sure if Holly's having some, oh wait, sorry. Holly, are you there?
Yeah, hey, sorry.
Cool. You ready to read?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you.
With Disney strings for soundtrack. Can you hear me? Cool. Blue Carbon, intertidal. I found out my half-cousin is blue carbon. I knew he was into the ocean, but I didn't know how deep it was. Like, could you do me a favor? If you have a page in front of you, write down your top 5 skills in order. Blue carbon, intertidal. 1, share zone on the shore zone. 2, tide pools with everything under microscope. 3, I feel like this is probably the 5th time I've talked about barnacles already. 4, iridescent shells that aren't shy or winking. 5, definitely mentioning algae. Blue carbon, intertidal. 1, hydro in dance notation, backless, strings, nothing lies, and water spills, replacement verb. 3, crucial points, an older but damaged set. 1, infinite loop. 2, restart, a bundle, a bounce, that's when. Reply through sunset, point out tint, old glow, soft polished like a flip phone, tadpole. Ice to change. The only thing hot is it might get smudgy, and that's so obvious it's strike. 3, cross ventilation, dirt, prefractal. Can you cash out? Are you even? Little carbon inside. Fuck what the time. Fuck what the cat. Fuck what the fuck you. Care what the time you. Beyond for good. Effervesce over lifetimes. Ruins. Blue carbon, intertidal 2, the sequel. Something like who posts beach pics through a kaleidoscope. 1, hydro in dance notation, backless strings, nothing lies, and water spills everywhere. Haters use different verbs, 3 crucial points, and you are older but damaged, set in. 1, infinite loop, do better, be nice. 2, on, off, a bundle, a bounce, that's when air conditioning breaks. Reply through sunset, pointing out tint, old glow, sweat, soft, polished, like a rock. Tadpole, ice to change. The only thing hot is that it might get smudgy. And that is so fucking obvious, it makes it even fucking hotter. Strike the floor. 3, can you cash out? Are you even real? Cross ventilation. Dirt in games didn't seem real until later. Animate dust. A little nothing in pocket. Care what the fuck you time. Beyond years, last for good. Effervesce ruins over lifetimes. Gondwana treasure hunt. analog measures, locks, chaos as protection, dolphin trick sex. Glass shards cemented on the top of a wall, just totally junking block paths. The specific blue algae that grows in one lake that is 1,000 times tastier and more tweaked than key broke in lock. Blue carbon intertidal flipped. 1. No longer in the water checking tides. Barnacle cuts underfoot in the boat shed. Home bay. Hydro infection. Sunburnt straps don't lie. And water spills. Replacement verb. Can we aloe your burn? I'm aloeing your 3 crucial points and UV damaged sunset. Galaxy chaos infinity loop like mining fire. 2. Restart. Let's go back to before we met and get to a point where we never, a bundle abounds. And that's when my patience breaks. Reply through sunset, pointing out tint. I heard it's hot where you are. All glow sweat, soft suction like a limpet. I can't relate. Starfish suck to the bottom. Ice to change. The only thing cool is that it might get frozen. And that is so obvious, it makes me want to drink nothing. Strike the floor. Aloe this more. Coding messages and extra information is so beautiful, it's also trash. Moving things around so they inhibit movement, but all the things are still valuable. Like the whole thing, and there might be aspects that are only visible, penetrable, comprehensible by certain people with specific access at certain times. The spaces between high and low tides, mangroves, and what we hide in their tentacles. Do me a solid. Do you remember in which movie I stored my ring on a tree half underwater? 3. Will it wash out? Are you real? I'm not sure you understand exactly what real means. Everything is real, but I think you might be confused between what's alive and what's okay. Like your transitional object, security blanket, but what's not real then? The Little Mermaid? Cross-ventilation, dirt in games didn't seem alive until we learned how to animate. Dust. A little nothing in time, beyond years. Lost for good. Effervescence cares what the fuck you ruin over lifetimes. At the end, like ice. $1 million paperweight crunched on the field, and then also like the readability of other people's possessions junked. 1. I'm no longer in the water checking tides. Initiate sandbar on the ebb bar. Hydro in dance nothing. Sunburn. Straplines. Don't lie. Sun don't lies. And water spills. Home and away. Replacement verb. Can you aloe my no underwear? I'm allowing your 3 crucial points and sun damaged sunset. 1 infinite loop around the solar system will go far.
Thanks so much, Holly. That's really great. Thank you. And so exciting to know that that's part of a larger piece. First, is it 4? 3 pieces of that poem is part of the chapbook. So our third reader for the evening is Oscar Schwartz, who is broadcasting from Melbourne, but he is currently based in Darwin. Oscar's first book of poetry, The Honeymoon Stage, was released by Giramondo this year. And you should definitely get a copy of it. Thank you, Oscar.
Thanks, Melody. So this is the poem in the chapbook. It's called I'd like to take a minute of your time to discuss shortcuts. My main argument is as follows. The purpose of a shortcut is that it's a shorter distance to the destination, and it takes up less time to get there. In this sense, a shortcut is objectively good. And if anyone tells you otherwise, or that there are no shortcuts in life, and that you have to always do things properly, don't believe them. It's just that this person has never found one for themselves. There are empty bottles in my shortcut, palm fronds, and speckled lizards, and people who ask me my name at 1:15 p.m. while I'm walking to lunch. When I'm finally at lunch, I imagine building a universal shortcut that everyone in the world could use once when they need to get somewhere really fast, like a get-out-of-jail-free card. In this world I'm imagining, I live in a bark hut at the mouth of the shortcut to let people in, and also to make sure that they don't use it more than once. In summary, there is nothing careless or lazy about a shortcut. I don't understand why people are fighting this war against shortcuts when they should really be fighting a war against time, which seems to be taking over everything these days and often ruining very simple things like lunch. The end.
Great. Thank you, Oscar. And thank you everyone for joining us. I'll just pass back over to Frankie, who'll wrap things up.
Thanks, folks. Thanks everyone who tuned in this evening, or whatever time it is where you are, for our third digital reading, Tell Me Like You Mean It, Dale, Holly Childs and Oscar Schwartz. You can stream it back anytime by following the event link to YouTube listed on the Australian Poetry website. So thanks a lot again, and we hope you have a great rest of the evening or day or morning wherever you are. Bye.